Hello and welcome to my beginner's guide on how to use Fruity Loops Studio. I've been using this program for about 2 years, so I don't know everything there is to know about it, but I know enough to help you get started. After you open Fruity Loops, you'll have 5 windows pre-opened: the toolbar, the browser, the channel rack, the mixer, and the playlist. There's also the piano roll, but that one's closed when you open up the program, so we'll talk about that later. After we learn about these windows, we'll go over how to set up a controller. Here are all the times for what I'll go over, so you can skip around and learn whatever you need to learn. Let's start with the toolbar. The toolbar is where all the option settings as well as the toggle buttons are, toggle meaning to turn on and off. We'll go over the tools from right to left, so we can keep this all in an orderly fashion. We'll start with the File button. File's where you'd start a new project, open an old one, save or export your projects. There is an option here to import projects, but that doesn't work unless you have the producer's edition of the program, which if you're in Onstat's class, we don't have that. Here are recent projects that I've opened. As you can see, I'm really good at naming things. Here's when you want to rewrite a save or exit the program, and there's one way to do all of those things. Edit is where you have your basic commands: cut, copy, paste, undo. You can use your regular commands to do that, your keyboard commands to do that as well, so I'm not quite sure why you would use this, but if you want to, it's there. These are the same as in these are in the browser, and the mixer here as well. So I don't use this one, but you can figure out what these are if you so desire. Patterns, these options are in the channel rack, and I particularly use the channel rack and not these. So we'll go over that when we go over the channel rack. View, this toggles what windows are viewable and which ones aren't. There are some windows that aren't used as frequently at all, and there are also different ways to open these. I'm not sure what touch controller or tests do, so you can figure that one out if you so desire, but these are just kind of duplicates. Options, this is where all your project and program options are. You can change things such as your time signature here, and you could also change these. If you figure out how to change these, we'll go over this this is where you would put in your controller. You can change these if you want to, if you learn how to, but I don't know. The only ones I know how to change is these. And I don't touch anything else because I'm prone to breaking things. Tools, here's browser, smart find. It's just a second way to do easier things, and I don't know what these do either, so I don't use that. And help, this will just take you to Fruity Loops website and how to do things there, so you can use Fruity Loops tutorials to learn more. I find it confusing, so I don't, but there's that. Down here we have the hint bar. The hint bar tells you what the buttons do if you hover over them, so you'll see it gives a little description of what each button does. It's really handy, and it even tells you what it is, which is really nice. There's the master volume and pitch knobs that just changes either the pitch or the volume. It's pretty self-explanatory. Here's the play pause bar. This chooses if you play either a pattern or the whole song. So if you play a pattern, you'll just play what's here, or and then if you play the whole song, you'll play what's in the playlist. We'll go over that again when we get to the channel rack and patterns. There are a few options here. This is just play, stop, pretty self-explanatory stuff. Here you can change. Here you could change the tempo. This is just changing the tempo around. You can change it very finely as well, although I'm not sure why you would do that. It just seems more annoying than anything, but whatever makes you happy. There are, this is a recording option, but again, you can't record or do anything with like recording or importing anything without the producer's edition, which we don't have. So just ignore anything that says record on it, just ignore it. Next we have these 5 squares here. Most of these have to do with recording, so you can't use any of these 4. This one you can only use if you have multiple controllers, and we only have 1. And I'm not sure what these 2 do, but this one is just setting up a metronome, so you have a metronome there. This one turns your keyboard into a piano, so if you don't have a controller, you can just use your keyboard. You can turn that off as well. And I'm not sure what this one does, but I would not advise turning it off. This here is what you snap to. So when you put a pattern down, you can only like move a certain amount, and this would like change like how you moved around, how quickly or slowly you moved around. Let's see, like yeah. This up here is the song position. It just shows you what part of the song you want more accurately with your numbers. There's a pattern panel, which is here. This is just making new patterns. We'll get over to that when we go over the channel rack. You have the monitor panel. The monitor panel just tells you how loud things are, and it just gives you a wavelength of the sound. So if you see when I put this in, it'll kind of show you what level the volume is at. Here we have the CPU panel. This includes the CPU load history, memory usage, and the amount of voices being processed. So the higher this is, the more your computer is using to produce those sounds and to keep your music going. So don't overload your computers, but that's pretty hard to do, so I wouldn't worry about it too much. We have the toggle panel, which is this here. This is where you can toggle certain windows open to close. This includes the playlist, piano roll, channel rack, mixer, browser, or plugin picker, project or plugin picker. They're both the same thing. Tempo tapper and touch controller. It's just another way to open those windows. This is the way that I typically do it. This is piano roll, by the way. We'll get into that later though. One last thing is that the toolbar can't be moved. So while all these windows can be moved, this one can't be, but it's not too much of an issue. It stays out of the way pretty well. So that's it for the toolbar. We're gonna move on to the browser. Now the browser has all the instruments as well as your project history. So your project history, if you hit Control Z and then Control Shift Z. So say I literally hate everything. Here I have the project history open. If you hit Control Z and then Control Alt Z, you'll open the project history automatically. So you can move anywhere into like how these are. Don't mind the playlist thing. It broke while I was fiddling with something. So packs is where all your instruments are. There's drums is a selection of different hits, toms, kicks, snares, cymbals, and various other types of percussion. To drums mode. Audio is just a different selection of the same thing that drums in, but this one has a couple more. Foley is just sounds that like you'd find in real life, quote unquote. It's pretty cool. I really like using that. Instruments, you just got a bass, guitar, keyboard, and orchestra. They have little subsets of different types of those 4 instruments. Legacy, these don't tend to work. I only use the bass, but you can mess around with those if you would like. These are just drum loops, some risers, noise. I find them kind of annoying, so I don't use them. Sound effects, these are just sound effects that aren't Foley, mostly just electronic noises. Shapes, selection of specific wave shapes, but you can also do that in effects as well, or like in the mixer effects. So I wouldn't do that here. It's more complicated if you do it here. And vocals is just a selection of vocal clips. I don't use any of these other ones, but if you learn how to use those, then go right ahead. They're just kind of easier ways to do things. Moving on to the next window, we have the channel rack. Channel rack holds all the instruments that create sound and generators that can control automation. So you take an instrument from the browser. Let's take something simple like let's take a nice electric piano. Put it where it says pick here, and now you can play it and create a pattern with the piano roll, which we'll get to in a second. From there, you have there are a few buttons as well that you can work with. There's mute or solo. So if you left click, then you'll mute a tab. If you played the track while it was in a pattern, you wouldn't be able to hear it. Or if you right click it, you can solo it, and it turns everything else off. You have the mixer track. These changes what track here. Like if you see these have numbers on top, it just changes where it would go through. So when you put effects on these, then like when you put effects on your instruments, you put them in here, and it tells you like which one of these. So you can have multiple instruments in one track. Let's see. Instrument settings. If you left click an instrument, these are a more in-depth look at the instrument files, and they have some fine-tuning options. I don't use these. It's a bit too complicated for me. Select. This selects a track. These just selects a track, and these are the steps here. This selects when a beat plays, so we have clap, and we have it play on one beat. Play the pattern. Yeah, it's pretty self-explanatory there. But that's all the channel rack does. The piano roll is the only window not readily open. Piano roll, you right click an instrument you want to affect, or you want to set down a track for, and you open up this. This can also be smaller. I just like it so I can see as much as I can. And here you can just, this is where you set up the chord or the chords for your patterns, and yeah, it's that easy to create a pattern. There are a couple options. It's just another way to put these down. It doesn't really do anything different. This one will mute. This one, this one deletes. This one mutes as well. Wait, what is this? Oh, this is paint and drum sequencer mode. My bad. It's different. I don't use that, by the way, because I just use the steps because it's easier that way. There's select, so you select Control C, Control V, copy and paste. It's that easy. Zoom, which is what I messed with before, and I broke it, and I don't know how to go back from that. It makes me really sad because there are some things you can't undo, and that's one of those things. And this is just playback. I don't know what that does. But that's those options. There are other ways to do this. Of course, I showed you, you can hit here and that'll open piano roll. Here, that'll open piano roll. Just do whatever you want to do. There's just so many ways to do the same thing. You can do whatever makes you feel comfortable. Next, we'll go into the mixer. This is where you'd put effects into your instruments. So like if I wanted an effect, let's say a reverb effect on my electric keyboard, I'd hit Fruity Reverb 2, and then it'd be there. Now you can hear this reverb on it. There's some effects here though that can't be accessed without the producer's edition, so you'll have to look around for these. The only ones that I can readily remember is the Edison and the actually the Edison is the only one I really remember right now. So you can look through these. It'll tell you immediately, and if you do end up using an effect that is only available in Producer's Edition, then it just will get rid of the track. It'll just mute it. So don't use those for real tracks, or else you'll be really upset. I've done that before, and it's really, really sad. After making a track in Piano Roll, this will create a pattern, and then you can take patterns and put them into here. You can isolate tracks, like here, these will isolate tracks, and you can solo them the same way, depending. This is left click, this is right click. The numbers up here indicate what measure you're on. Your patterns show here as well, so you can have as many patterns as you like. So now that we've gone over all of the windows, I will just I'll go over the how to add a controller. Adding a controller is easy. All you have to do is plug in your controller to an available USB port, go to Options, MIDI settings, and here you will have all your settings for the Novation Launch Key 25, which is the one that OnStock has right now. For people who are using Macs, the controller should just auto put these settings in, so you don't have to mess with these at all. It should just work automatically. For those who use Windows like I do, the settings do not do that for whatever reason. So make sure that your settings look exactly like mine, and everything should work. If you get like a really low tone, like a really low piano tone, you've done something wrong. I've done that quite a few times. It's really easy to get this wrong because it's a very finicky settings, but if you have it exactly like mine, everything should be fine, unless, you know, it's been too long. And after you do all that, you can now use the controller. And that's all you need to know to get started with Fruity Loops. If you have any more questions, you can go to the Help tab and go to their website. They have tutorials and whatnot there. You can look it up on Google. There are plenty of tutorials there. This really isn't a very difficult program to use, so you could even just fiddle around with settings by yourself. You won't break anything permanently. I'll figure out how to fix this eventually. Other than that, have a good day and have fun making music. Bye.